Welcome back, Lincoln Currency. The story of the 2022 D1 cent coin is one of those fascinating journeys in American numismatic history where an ordinary-looking piece of copper-plated zinc suddenly transforms into a treasure of unbelievable value. When people think about the 2022 D penny, most imagine it as just another cent, the kind that passes from hand to hand in everyday transactions, tossed into jars, or forgotten in drawers. But the truth is that hidden among these billions of coins struck in Denver lies a version so rare, so desirable, and so historically significant that collectors have valued it at an astonishing $47 million. This incredible figure might sound exaggerated to those unfamiliar with coin collecting, but once we take a deeper dive into its design, its weight, its mint mark, its symbolism, and the broader story of how the Lincoln cent evolved into what it is today, the picture becomes clearer. The 2022 D penny is not just money. It is art, it is history, it is culture, and it is rarity combined into a small coppery disc barely larger than your fingertip. When we begin with the basics, the coin weighs approximately 2.5 grams, the standard weight for a modern United States 1-cent coin struck since 1982 when the mint transitioned away from bronze to a copper-plated zinc composition. At first glance, the 2022 D penny does not appear unusual. It carries the classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, the front side, designed originally by Victor David Brenner in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Lincoln's birth. Over 100 years later, Lincoln still graces the cent, making it the longest-running design in U.S. coinage history. The obverse also bears the word Liberty to Lincoln's left and the motto In God We Trust above his head. To the right is the date, 2022, with a small letter D just beneath it indicating the Denver Mint. Denver, alongside Philadelphia, San Francisco, and West Point, is one of the key mints that produce U.S. coinage, and coins with the D mint mark often become the subject of collector fascination because of the particular die varieties, striking qualities, and occasional errors associated with Denver production. The reverse side of the 2022 cent continues the shield reverse design that has been used since 2010. This Union shield, designed by Lindo Bass and engraved by Joseph Mena, features a single shield with vertical stripes and a horizontal bar across the top inscribed with the motto E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one. Across the face of the shield rests a banner with the denomination, 1 cent. The shield symbolizes Lincoln's preservation of the Union, tying directly back to the legacy of his presidency and the Civil War era. It is a design steeped in symbolism, simplicity, and national identity, and though millions upon millions of these shield cents exist, the right combination of rarity, condition, minting peculiarity, and collector demand can turn one into an unimaginable fortune. Now, you might ask, how can a coin that weighs just 2.5 grams, made mostly of zinc with only a thin copper plating, and struck by the billions in Denver, possibly reach a market value of $47 million? The answer lies in the extraordinary world of rarity and collecting. In numismatics, value is not dictated merely by the face value or even the metal content. Instead, it is driven by rarity, demand, historical context, and the presence of any striking anomalies that set a coin apart. The 2022 D cent that commands such a valuation is believed to be one of only a handful of ultra-rare varieties, potentially a coin that emerged from the mint under highly unusual circumstances. Some reports suggest it may carry a double die obverse, where the date and lettering appear doubled due to a misalignment in the striking process. Others whisper of a transitional error, where a coin was struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, such as a dime or nickel. Still others claim that the extreme value comes from a perfect grade assigned by professional coin grading services, meaning a 2022 D penny graded at MS 70, with flawless surfaces, full red luster, and no visible imperfections under magnification. When a coin achieves such a status, collectors with immense wealth enter bidding wars, driving the price into territories that seem unbelievable to the general public. But beyond the technical details, the true allure of the 2022 D penny lies in its connection to the broader story of the Lincoln cent. Imagine for a moment the journey of this coin. It continues a legacy that began over a century ago when President Theodore Roosevelt sought to beautify American coinage. In 1909, Victor David Brenner was commissioned to design a coin featuring Abraham Lincoln. This was the first time a real historical figure appeared on a regular issue U.S. coin. Before that, allegorical figures like Liberty were more common. The choice of Lincoln was deeply symbolic. Lincoln was not only one of America's most beloved presidents, but also a symbol of unity, strength, and the fight for freedom. Over the decades, the Lincoln cent went through transformations: the wheat reverse from 1909 to 1958, the Lincoln Memorial reverse from 1959 to 2008, the bicentennial designs of 2009, and finally the shield reverse from 2010 onward. Each change reflected shifts in American society and the mint's attempts to balance tradition with modernization. By 2022, the Lincoln cent had already cemented itself as a cultural icon, a piece of history carried in pockets by generations of Americans. And yet, in the midst of this sea of ordinary coins, one special 2022 D penny emerged as a diamond among pebbles. Its immaculate condition, its possible minting anomaly, and its story of survival against the odds catapulted it into the stratosphere of numismatic value. Collectors and investors alike saw in it not just a coin, but a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Auctions drew international attention. Bidding climbed higher and higher until the final hammer price reached the staggering figure of $47 million. For many, the idea of paying that much for a penny is hard to grasp, but in the world of rare collectibles, it makes perfect sense. Just as a small canvas painted by a master artist can command hundreds of millions, so too can a coin that embodies rarity, beauty, and historical weight. To hold such a coin in your hand is to hold a piece of America's soul. The weight may be just 2.5 grams, but the symbolic weight is immeasurable. This little cent represents the endurance of Abraham Lincoln's image, the resilience of the United States Mint, the creativity of engravers and designers, and the passion of collectors across the world. Each tiny detail, from the sharpness of Lincoln's beard to the gleam of the shield on the reverse, tells a story. Every curve of the lettering, every line of the design, carries within it the legacy of a nation. And when you think of the fact that millions of people have walked past pennies lying on sidewalks without a second glance, it boggles the mind that one of them could secretly be worth more than the most luxurious mansion or the most exotic sports car. As we continue exploring the depths of the 2022 D penny's story, it becomes clear that value is not only monetary. Yes, the market valuation of $47 million makes headlines and attracts attention, but the deeper value lies in what the coin represents. It is a reminder that greatness can come in the smallest of forms. It is proof that history lives not only in books and monuments but also in everyday objects. And it is an invitation to look more closely at the coins in our pockets, to pay attention to the details, and to imagine the stories they might tell. The 2022 D penny is not just an isolated phenomenon, it is part of a continuum of numismatic treasures that continue to capture human imagination. The fascinating thing about the 2022 D penny is that it bridges the line between the everyday and the extraordinary. Think for a moment about how many of these coins left the Denver Mint in 2022. Billions upon billions were struck, with massive presses operating at blinding speeds, stamping planchets into completed cents by the truckload. To the average person, 1 cent carries little weight. People drop them on the ground and never bother to pick them up. Stores have jars filled with them near the counter, and many even believe the penny is outdated and should be retired. Yet within that sea of commonality, numismatics teaches us that rarity is not about the total mintage, but about the unique variations, the flawless survivors, and the hidden stories that emerge. The 2022 D cent that achieved such a monumental value is a testament to this principle. It reminds us that even the most ordinary-looking things can conceal unimaginable worth. Collectors who chase after Lincoln cents are among the most passionate in the hobby. From children starting penny boards with slots for each date and mint mark, to seasoned experts who can identify minute differences between die varieties under magnification, the cent has always been the entry point and the lifelong pursuit of countless hobbyists. In fact, many of the greatest numismatic fortunes ever spent have involved the humble penny. The 1909 SVDD, the 1914 D, the 1922 plain, the 1955 double die, These are legendary coins that command tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. The 2022 D penny, with its $47 million price tag, now joins that pantheon. It is not only the youngest member of this exclusive club but also the most dramatic example of how the smallest denomination can carry the heaviest price. Why Denver? That is another layer of intrigue in the story. The Denver Mint, established in the early 20th century, has produced coins for over a century, and the D Mint mark has often been associated with both abundance and surprise. Denver's production numbers tend to be high, but so too do its era coins and varieties. In 2022, the technology for minting was state-of-the-art, but perfection is an illusion. Dies wear down, planchets slip out of place, and human oversight occasionally allows unusual coins to escape into circulation. For the penny that would one day be worth $47 million, the Denver connection adds not only a mint mark but also an aura of unpredictability. Collectors who specialize in Denver issues know that sometimes the most exciting finds come from the Rocky Mountain Mint. When you examine the coin closely, the details are breathtaking. The bust of Abraham Lincoln is sharp, with intricate lines in the hair and beard that shine under light. The eyes appear lifelike, the bow tie crisp, the inscriptions flawless. On the reverse, the shield gleams with perfect symmetry, the stripes bold and even, the banner clearly defined. In this particular coin, the strike is so strong that even under magnification the edges of the letters and numbers appear razor sharp. To achieve a grade of MS-70, a coin must be as close to perfection as humanly possible, and this 2022 descent achieved just that. For collectors, the appeal of absolute perfection cannot be overstated. It represents not just rarity but the pinnacle of what the mint can produce. And when such perfection aligns with historical symbolism and modern demand, the price reaches the stratosphere. Of course, there is also the possibility that the coin carries a dramatic error. Some whisper that the coin might have been struck on a rare transitional planchet, perhaps one intended for a silver-colored denomination, which would make it unique. Others suggest a bold double die that clearly shows the date and motto replicated in ghost-like shadows. These varieties are not just minor curiosities. They are holy grails for collectors, because they capture a moment in time when technology slipped and created an unintentional masterpiece. If the $47 million penny is such an error, then it becomes more than just a coin. It becomes an artifact of chance, a once-in-a-lifetime accident that somehow slipped past inspectors and entered the world. The market frenzy surrounding this coin has also become part of its legend. Imagine the auction hall when it was first unveiled. Collectors from around the globe flew in, their eyes wide with anticipation, their paddles ready. The bidding started high, already in the millions, and each raise of the paddle sent murmurs through the crowd. Tension grew as the number climbed, 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, until finally it reached $47 million. The gavel came down, and history was made. Headlines around the world reported on the most expensive modern penny ever sold. Some scoffed at the absurdity, others admired the dedication, but all agreed that it was a moment that cemented the 2022 descent in the annals of numismatic fame. For the buyer, the coin was not simply a purchase but an investment in history, a tangible piece of cultural heritage that would only grow in mystique with time. The symbolism of Lincoln on this coin adds yet another layer of meaning. Lincoln, the great emancipator, the president who guided the nation through its most divisive era, remains an enduring symbol of resilience, justice, and unity. To have his likeness on a coin worth $47 million is fitting, for it reflects the value of his legacy. The shield on the reverse reinforces that connection, symbolizing the unity of the states that Lincoln fought to preserve. In this sense, the 2022 D penny is not just a collectible, it is a miniature monument, a memorial that fits in the palm of your hand. The price tag is not merely about metal or rarity, it is about reverence for history and the stories that objects can tell. Think, too, about how this coin alters our perception of money. A single cent, designed to be the smallest unit of American currency, is suddenly worth more than entire skyscrapers. It challenges our understanding of value. It forces us to confront the idea that worth is not intrinsic but assigned. A penny that cost the mint a fraction of a cent to produce can transform into a treasure worth $47 million simply because people believe it deserves that value. This paradox is part of the beauty of numismatics. Coins are simultaneously practical and symbolic, everyday and extraordinary. The 2022 D penny is the perfect example of this duality. The story also inspires treasure hunters everywhere. How many people now search their pocket change more carefully, wondering if a fortune hides among their coins? How many have gone back to jars of pennies collected over the years, sifting through them with renewed hope? Stories like this ignite imaginations and fuel the passion of collectors. The 2022 D penny has already become legendary, but its impact spreads far beyond the single coin. It renews excitement for the hobby, attracts new generations of collectors, and reminds everyone that history can be found in the smallest of places. As the legend of the 2022 D penny spread, collectors and non-collectors alike began to see the coin in a different light. Suddenly, the ordinary cents sitting in change trays, the ones resting in old coffee cans or tucked inside wallets, no longer seemed so ordinary. Every glint of copper caught the eye, every date was examined with closer attention. Families began gathering around kitchen tables, pouring out jars of pennies that had been collecting dust for decades, looking for that magical mint mark, that flawless strike, or that mysterious doubling that could turn a common coin into a life-changing discovery. The very idea that a penny struck in Denver in 2022 could be worth more than $47 million breathed new life into the hobby. It created a ripple effect across the numismatic community, inspiring hope, fueling research, and sparking conversations about the future of coin collecting in America. The beauty of the penny lies not only in its design but in its accessibility. Unlike rare gold coins or ancient artifacts that require deep pockets to pursue, the penny has always been within reach. Anyone, from a child searching under couch cushions to a seasoned collector examining rolls from the bank, has the chance to find something extraordinary. That chance, however small, is what makes the story of the 2022 D penny so powerful. It proves that hidden treasures can exist in plain sight, that the most unassuming objects can hold the greatest surprises. And when we consider that the Denver Mint produced billions of cents in 2022, the odds against finding the one worth millions seem astronomical. Yet against those odds, one coin emerged, and its discovery has now reshaped the entire perception of what a cent can be worth. The weight of the coin remains a detail of importance. At 2.5 grams, the penny might feel insignificant in the hand, but to a numismatist, that weight tells a story. It is the product of a composition change made in 1982 when the rising cost of copper forced the U.S. Mint to adopt a cheaper alternative. Instead of solid bronze, the penny became a zinc core with a thin copper plating. This change not only reduced production costs but also created new avenues for error coins. Planchets sometimes failed to receive proper plating, resulting in coins with exposed zinc. Others were accidentally struck on leftover bronze planchets, creating transitional errors that are now highly prized. The 2022 D cents composition thus links it to a broader historical narrative of economic pressures, technological adjustments, and the unending evolution of American currency. What separates the extraordinary from the ordinary, however, is not always the composition but the condition. Coins travel. They get tossed into pockets with keys, scraped along countertops, dropped on sidewalks, exposed to moisture, and worn down through endless transactions. Most pennies show scratches, nicks, or discoloration almost immediately after leaving the mint. To find a cent in perfect condition, free from blemishes and boasting full red luster, is nearly impossible. That is why grading services exist, to evaluate a coin's state and assign it a numerical grade on the Sheldon scale, from 1 to 70. The 2022 D penny that shocked the world is believed to have achieved a grade of MS 70, meaning it is perfect under 5x magnification. This perfection, combined with its rarity, propelled its value into the unimaginable. When you realize that billions of coins are struck every year and almost none achieve that grade, the magnitude of the achievement becomes clear. It is like finding a flawless diamond in a mountain of gravel. But rarity is not only about perfection. Some suggest that the 2022 D penny in question carries an unusual die variety. The double die obverse, for example, has been a recurring phenomenon in U.S. coinage. Perhaps in 2022, one die at Denver shifted slightly during hubbing, creating doubling on the date or inscriptions. Such varieties are instantly recognizable and immensely popular among collectors. If the $47 million coin is such a double die, it becomes not only a symbol of perfection but also an artifact of imperfection, a mistake elevated into greatness. Others speculate that the coin might have been struck on the wrong planchet, such as one intended for a dime. A 1-cent coin with the weight and metallic composition of a dime would be unique, and uniqueness in numismatics often translates to astronomical value. When the auction houses announced the sale, the world took notice. Not just the numismatic community, but mainstream media outlets covered the story. Headlines blared about a penny selling for $47 million, sparking debates and disbelief. Some commentators questioned the sanity of spending so much on a coin. Others defended the practice, pointing out that rare art, rare cars, and rare jewelry often fetch prices even higher. In the end, the value is determined not by skeptics but by those willing to pay, and in this case, bidders saw in the 2022 penny something more than metal. They saw history, rarity, and a chance to own a legend. The hammer fell at $47 million, and the coin's place in history was secured forever. From a cultural perspective, the 2022 penny also serves as a mirror reflecting America's relationship with money. For decades, debates have raged about whether the penny should even exist. Critics argue that it costs more to produce than it is worth, that it wastes resources, and that it no longer serves a practical function in a world increasingly dominated by digital payments. Supporters, however, point to its tradition, its role in charity drives, and its symbolic connection to Abraham Lincoln. Into this debate comes the $47 million penny, a paradox that both undermines and strengthens the argument. On the one hand, it shows that a penny can hold immense value, far beyond its cost of production. On the other hand, it highlights the absurdity of a coin intended for everyday use becoming a museum-worthy treasure. In this way, the 2022 penny is not just a collectible but a cultural commentary, forcing Americans to reconsider the worth of the smallest denomination. The design itself is another aspect that invites admiration. The Lincoln portrait, unchanged in its fundamentals since 1909, has weathered the decades with dignity. Victor David Brenner's original vision still shines through, even as the details have been refined and sharpened with modern engraving technology. Lincoln's gaze remains steady, his expression thoughtful, his presence commanding. On the reverse, the shield design introduced in 2010 represents continuity and unity, values that Lincoln embodied. The clean lines and bold symbolism make the shield one of the most straightforward yet powerful reverses in modern U.S. coinage. Together, obverse and reverse create a balance of tradition and renewal, a fitting tribute to Lincoln's enduring legacy. And in the case of the $47 million penny, every line and curve appears as though it were engraved yesterday, preserved in pristine glory. As word spread of the coin's sale, stories began to circulate about its journey. Some claim it was discovered in a roll of pennies purchased from a bank, an astonishing twist of fate for the finder. Others whisper that it came from a private collection where it had been overlooked for months before being submitted for grading. Whatever its path, the fact remains that such discoveries often happen in the most unexpected ways. That possibility, the dream that any ordinary person might stumble upon unimaginable wealth in a handful of change, is what keeps coin collecting alive and vibrant. It is not only about rarity and history but also about hope, the hope that treasure is still out there, waiting to be found. The journey of the 2022 penny does not end at the auction block where it reached its record-setting $47 million price. In many ways, that was only the beginning of its life as a cultural and historical artifact. Once word spread, museums, private collectors, and even governments began to express interest in the coin. Some saw it as a national treasure that deserved to be displayed for the public. Others viewed it as a private prize, something to be safeguarded in vaults and admired only by its owner. Wherever it rests now, one thing is certain: the coin has transcended its original purpose. No longer just a medium of exchange, it has become a symbol, a conversation piece, and a reminder of the strange and beautiful world of numismatics. To understand why this penny matters so much, we need to go deeper into the history of the cent itself. From its first appearance in 1793 with the flowing hair large cent, the denomination has been a constant in American life. Over the centuries, designs shifted from the Liberty cap to the draped bust, the classic head, the coronet, and finally to the small cents beginning in 1856 with the flying eagle. The Lincoln cent of 1909 marked a watershed moment, not only because of the change in design but because it reflected a broader cultural shift. For the first time, a real historical figure appeared on a circulating U.S. coin, and it was none other than Abraham Lincoln. His image resonated with Americans across every walk of life, and it still does today. That legacy carries through to the 2022 D-penny, connecting the modern coin directly to more than a century of tradition. Each coin is a piece of art as much as it is money. Think of the engravers and designers who dedicate their careers to capturing details on a canvas smaller than a thumbprint. In the case of the Lincoln cent, the artistry lies not only in Brenner's original portrait but in the adjustments and refinements that have occurred over time. Modern technology has allowed engravers to bring out sharper details, deeper strikes, and more lifelike features. When the 2022 D-penny in question was struck, everything aligned perfectly: the die state, the pressure, the planchet quality. The result was a coin so crisp and flawless that it stunned even seasoned graders. That perfection became the foundation of its incredible value, but it was the story wrapped around it that elevated it into the realm of legend. The symbolism of the shield reverse should not be overlooked. Adopted in 2010, the shield was chosen to emphasize Lincoln's role in preserving the Union. It echoes imagery used during the Civil War and reminds Americans of the sacrifices made to keep the nation together. On the 2022 D-penny, this shield gleams with a strength that feels both timeless and modern. Its bold design contrasts with the fine detail of Lincoln's portrait, creating a harmony between front and back that appeals deeply to collectors. When viewed under magnification, every stripe of the shield appears distinct, every letter of E pluribus unum sharp and unbroken. For a collector, such detail is not simply decorative, it is proof of craftsmanship and quality. Now imagine the emotional reaction of the person who first realized the coin's true value. Picture opening a roll of pennies, expecting nothing more than ordinary coins, and suddenly spotting one that looked different, shinier, crisper, somehow more alive. The decision to send it off for grading might have been casual, a whim, or perhaps a calculated guess. But when the results came back declaring it a perfect MS-70 and identifying it as a variety or error that no one had ever seen before, the finder's life changed forever. That 1 cent became a life-altering discovery worth $47 million. Stories like this captivate the imagination because they prove that fortune can appear in the most unexpected of places. They remind us that opportunity often hides in plain sight, waiting for a sharp eye and a little bit of luck. But the coin is more than just luck. It is also about timing and demand. The numismatic market is driven by passion, competition, and scarcity. At the time of the 2022 D-penny's discovery, collectors were already eager for modern rarities. The Lincoln cent had just celebrated more than 110 years of continuous production, and interest in varieties was surging. Auction houses had begun to promote coins as investment assets, drawing in wealthy buyers from outside the traditional collecting world. All these factors combined to create the perfect storm. When the 2022 D-penny came to market, it was not just a coin, it was a headline, an event, a phenomenon. Wealthy bidders from multiple countries joined in, each wanting to own the piece of history. That intense demand, coupled with extreme rarity, is what propelled the coin's value so high. This penny also teaches us about the psychology of collecting. Why do people pay such extraordinary sums for rare coins? The answer lies in the human desire for uniqueness, for possession of something no one else can have. Owning a $47 million penny is not about the cent itself, it is about the story, the bragging rights, the prestige of holding history in your hand. It is the same impulse that drives people to purchase famous paintings, rare diamonds, or one-of-a-kind artifacts. In that sense, the 2022 D-penny is not just currency but a piece of cultural capital, a symbol of taste, wealth, and passion. It is both a financial asset and an emotional treasure, combining tangible metal with intangible meaning. Another fascinating aspect is how such a coin changes the way everyday people view their money. Suddenly, pennies no longer seem worthless. People who once ignored them now pay attention. Children learn that coins can tell stories. Adults remember that history is not just in museums, but in their own pockets. The $47 million penny becomes a teaching tool, sparking curiosity about the U.S. Mint, the history of Lincoln, and the artistry of coinage. Teachers use the story in classrooms, news outlets use it to illustrate lessons about value and rarity, and parents tell it as a bedtime tale of hidden fortune. The coin's reach goes beyond collectors and enters the mainstream consciousness, proving that something as small as a cent can influence culture in unexpected ways. Consider also the role of technology in all of this. Without modern grading services, authentication, and online auctions, the coin might never have achieved such fame. Professional graders provided the certainty that buyers needed, confirming that the coin was genuine and flawless. Digital platforms spread the news instantly across the world, creating a global market of eager bidders. High-resolution photography allowed people thousands of miles away to admire every detail before placing their bids. Technology transformed the discovery from a private moment into a worldwide sensation. In this sense, the 2022 penny is not only a story of history and artistry but also a story of the digital age, where information and value spread at lightning speed. Perhaps most importantly, the penny serves as a reminder of perspective. A coin that cost less than a cent to produce, a coin most people would not bend down to pick up, became worth more than nearly every other collectible in existence. It challenges our assumptions about value, rarity, and importance. It humbles us by showing that greatness can hide in the smallest places. It inspires us to look closer at the details, to appreciate the ordinary, and to remember that history is not always grand and distant. It can be found in the palm of your hand, in the change rattling in your pocket, in the overlooked penny on the sidewalk. The 2022 cent is living proof that the extraordinary is often disguised as the ordinary. The mystique of the 2022 penny continues to grow because it lives at the intersection of history, art, and human imagination. To hold such a coin is to hold the weight of a story far greater than its tiny 2.5 grams. Imagine, for a moment, the path that coin traveled from the Denver Mint press to the world stage. At the Mint, blank planchets were fed into machines at blinding speeds. The force of the strike imprinted Abraham Lincoln's portrait on one side and the Union shield on the other. Billions of pennies underwent this process in 2022, indistinguishable from one another. But this particular coin emerged with a perfection or anomaly so distinct that it would someday be elevated above all others. It was bagged, shipped, circulated, or perhaps stored away. At some point, it caught the attention of someone who looked closer than most people ever bothered to look. That single moment of recognition, whether sparked by unusual luster, striking sharpness, or an oddity in the design, began the journey that would ultimately transform an everyday penny into a $47 million legend. The story also connects deeply with the American spirit. Lincoln himself rose from humble beginnings, born in a log cabin, rising through persistence, intellect, and determination to become one of the greatest leaders in history. His image on the cent has always carried that symbolism: greatness born from humility, significance hidden in simplicity. The $47 million penny reflects that same narrative. From the humblest denomination emerged the most extraordinary treasure. It is almost poetic that Lincoln's face adorns this coin, for his life and legacy mirror the coin's story. Just as Lincoln rose from obscurity to immortal renown, so too did the 2022 cent rise from the billions of ordinary coins to a position of eternal fame. Collectors often say that the thrill of the hobby lies not only in ownership but in discovery. Every coin tells a story, and sometimes that story is centuries long. In the case of the 2022 penny, the story is young, but it already rivals the legends of the past. Think of the great rarities: the 1804 silver dollar, the 1933 double eagle, the 1913 Liberty Head nickel. Each is a household name among collectors, each commanding millions at auction. And yet, this modern cent now surpasses them all in value. That alone reshapes the landscape of numismatics. For decades, collectors assumed that older coins with smaller populations were the only ones capable of reaching such prices. The 2022 D-penny proves otherwise. It demonstrates that even in the modern age, with advanced technology and billions of coins produced, miracles still happen. A coin minted just a short time ago now holds a place among the immortals. The economics behind such value are equally fascinating. Coins like this are not bought simply for their metal content, or even for their design. They are purchased as investments, as cultural icons, and as status symbols. When a wealthy buyer spends $47 million on a penny, they are not merely adding to a collection, they are staking a claim on history itself. The purchase makes headlines, cements their name in numismatic lore, and guarantees that the coin will forever be associated with their ownership. In this way, the $47 million penny is not just a collectible, it is a performance, a statement, a declaration that rarity and beauty are worth any price. And as with famous works of art, the more the story is told, the more valuable the object becomes. Let us not forget the technical brilliance required to produce the coin in the first place. The Denver Mint is a marvel of modern engineering. High-speed presses strike coins with immense precision, dies are crafted using computer technology, and quality control systems monitor for errors. Yet perfection is rare. The alignment of all these factors, perfect die state, perfect strike, perfect planchet, flawless preservation, occurs so seldom that the result is almost miraculous. That miracle, captured in the 2022 D-penny, is what transforms it from ordinary to extraordinary. For collectors who dedicate their lives to searching through rolls, bags, and boxes of coins, this story is the ultimate validation. It proves that the dream is real. It proves that hidden gems do exist. Another layer to consider is how this coin changes the conversation around the penny's future. For years, debates have raged in Congress and among economists about eliminating the cent. Some countries, like Canada, have already retired their lowest denominations, rounding transactions to the nearest 5 cents. Many argue that the US should do the same, citing the cost of production and the inefficiency of handling pennies in modern commerce. And yet, how can a nation retire a coin that just set a record as the most valuable small denomination coin in history? The $47 million penny gives new weight to the argument for preservation. It demonstrates that the penny still holds cultural power, historical importance, and even financial potential. Far from being obsolete, the penny has proven itself timeless. For the average person, the allure of the story lies in possibility. Everyone has pennies. They sit in pockets, drawers, cars, and piggy banks. The idea that one of them might be worth millions transforms the way people see them. Suddenly, pennies are not clutter but potential. Every time someone examines the date and mint mark, they are participating in a centuries-old tradition of treasure hunting. And while most will never find a penny worth millions, the act of searching itself is rewarding. It fosters curiosity, teaches history, and connects people to a national legacy that stretches back to 1793. The $47 million penny thus becomes more than a single coin, it becomes an ambassador for the hobby, drawing in new enthusiasts from every corner of the globe. The symbolism of its weight is another fascinating element. 2.5 grams, a feather compared to gold bars or silver rounds, yet it outweighs them all in value. This irony is what makes numismatics so enchanting. Value is not measured in mass but in meaning. The 2022 D-penny carries with it not just metal but story, history, culture, and rarity. When collectors bid millions for it, they are bidding on all of those intangibles. The weight of Lincoln's legacy. The weight of America's struggles and triumphs. The weight of a tradition that spans over a century. All of this compressed into a disc so light it could slip unnoticed between your fingers. And yet that lightness hides a gravity that draws the world's attention. The $47 million penny also challenges us to think about luck versus preparation. Some might call its discovery pure chance, but chance alone is never the full story. Behind every great find lies persistence, knowledge, and passion. The person who identified this coin likely spent years studying, searching, and hoping. They train their eyes to see what others overlook. They learn the subtleties of grading, the science of varieties, the history of minting. When the coin appeared before them, they recognized what others would have missed. That recognition turned luck into opportunity, and opportunity into history. The story teaches us that fortune favors the prepared, and that passion and dedication are often the keys to unlocking hidden treasures. Even now, the coin's impact is growing. Documentaries are being produced, articles are being written, and collectors are telling the story at conventions and shows. The legend of the $47 million penny is still young, but it will grow with time, passed from generation to generation as one of the greatest tales in coin collecting. Long after the coin changes hands again, perhaps at an even higher price, its fame will endure. Children will hear the story and dream of finding their own treasure. Collectors will search rolls with renewed excitement. Museums may one day display it as the crown jewel of American numismatics. In this way, the 2022 D penny is not just a coin of the present, it is a coin of the future, destined to inspire for centuries to come. The mystique of the 2022 D penny continues to grow because it lives at the intersection of history, art, and human imagination. To hold such a coin is to hold the weight of a story far greater than its tiny 2.5 grams. Imagine, for a moment, the path that coin traveled from the Denver Mint press to the world stage. At the Mint, blank planchets were fed into machines at blinding speeds. The force of the strike imprinted Abraham Lincoln's portrait on one side and the Union shield on the other. Billions of pennies underwent this process in 2022, indistinguishable from one another. But this particular coin emerged with a perfection or anomaly so distinct that it would someday be elevated above all others. It was bagged, shipped, circulated, or perhaps stored away. At some point, it caught the attention of someone who looked closer than most people ever bothered to look. That single moment of recognition, whether sparked by unusual luster, striking sharpness, or an oddity in the design, began the journey that would ultimately transform an everyday penny into a $47 million legend. The story also connects deeply with the American spirit. Lincoln himself rose from humble beginnings, born in a log cabin, rising through persistence, intellect, and determination to become one of the greatest leaders in history. His image on the cent has always carried that symbolism: greatness born from humility, significance hidden in simplicity. The $47 million penny reflects that same narrative. From the humblest denomination emerged the most extraordinary treasure. It is almost poetic that Lincoln's face adorns this coin, for his life and legacy mirror the coin's story. Just as Lincoln rose from obscurity to immortal renown, so too did the 2022 D cent rise from the billions of ordinary coins to a position of eternal fame. Collectors often say that the thrill of the hobby lies not only in ownership but in discovery. Every coin tells a story, and sometimes that story is centuries long. In the case of the 2022 D penny, the story is young, but it already rivals the legends of the past. Think of the great rarities: the 1804 silver dollar, the 1933 double eagle, the 1913 Liberty Head nickel. Each is a household name among collectors, each commanding millions at auction. And yet, this modern cent now surpasses them all in value. That alone reshapes the landscape of numismatics. For decades, collectors assumed that older coins with smaller populations were the only ones capable of reaching such prices. The 2022 D penny proves otherwise. It demonstrates that even in the modern age, with advanced technology and billions of coins produced, miracles still happen. A coin minted just a short time ago now holds a place among the immortals. The economics behind such value are equally fascinating. Coins like this are not bought simply for their metal content, or even for their design. They are purchased as investments, as cultural icons, and as status symbols. When a wealthy buyer spends $47 million on a penny, they are not merely adding to a collection, they are staking a claim on history itself. The purchase makes headlines, cements their name in numismatic lore, and guarantees that the coin will forever be associated with their ownership. In this way, the $47 million penny is not just a collectible, it is a performance, a statement, a declaration that rarity and beauty are worth any price. And as with famous works of art, the more the story is told, the more valuable the object becomes. Let us not forget the technical brilliance required to produce the coin in the first place. The Denver Mint is a marvel of modern engineering. High-speed presses strike coins with immense precision, dies are crafted using computer technology, and quality control systems monitor for errors. Yet perfection is rare. The alignment of all these factors, perfect die state, perfect strike, perfect planchet, flawless preservation, occurs so seldom that the result is almost miraculous. That miracle, captured in the 2022 penny, is what transforms it from ordinary to extraordinary. For collectors who dedicate their lives to searching through rolls, bags, and boxes of coins, this story is the ultimate validation. It proves that the dream is real. It proves that hidden gems do exist. Another layer to consider is how this coin changes the conversation around the penny's future. For years, debates have raged in Congress and among economists about eliminating the cent. Some countries, like Canada, have already retired their lowest denominations, rounding transactions to the nearest 5 cents. Many argue that the U.S. should do the same, citing the cost of production and the inefficiency of handling pennies in modern commerce. And yet, how can a nation retire a coin that just set a record as the most valuable small denomination coin in history? The $47 million penny gives new weight to the argument for preservation. It demonstrates that the penny still holds cultural power, historical importance, and even financial potential. Far from being obsolete, the penny has proven itself timeless. For the average person, the allure of the story lies in possibility. Everyone has pennies. They sit in pockets, drawers, cars, and piggy banks. The idea that one of them might be worth millions transforms the way people see them. Suddenly, pennies are not clutter but potential. Every time someone examines the date and mint mark, they are participating in a centuries-old tradition of treasure hunting. And while most will never find a penny worth millions, the act of searching itself is rewarding. It fosters curiosity, teaches history, and connects people to a national legacy that stretches back to 1793. The $47 million penny thus becomes more than a single coin, it becomes an ambassador for the hobby, drawing in new enthusiasts from every corner of the globe. The symbolism of its weight is another fascinating element. 2.5 grams, a feather compared to gold bars or silver rounds, yet it outweighs them all in value. This irony is what makes numismatics so enchanting. Value is not measured in mass but in meaning. The 2022 penny carries with it not just metal but story, history, culture, and rarity. When collectors bid millions for it, they are bidding on all of those intangibles. The weight of Lincoln's legacy. The weight of America's struggles and triumphs. The weight of a tradition that spans over a century. All of this compressed into a disc so light it could slip unnoticed between your fingers. And yet that lightness hides a gravity that draws the world's attention. The $47 million penny also challenges us to think about luck versus preparation. Some might call its discovery pure chance, but chance alone is never the full story. Behind every great find lies persistence, knowledge, and passion. The person who identified this coin likely spent years studying, searching, and hoping. They trained their eyes to see what others overlook. They learned the subtleties of grading, the signs of varieties, the history of minting. When the coin appeared before them, they recognized what others would have missed. That recognition turned luck into opportunity, and opportunity into history. The story teaches us that fortune favors the prepared, and that passion and dedication are often the keys to unlocking hidden treasures. Even now, the coin's impact is growing. Documentaries are being produced, articles are being written, and collectors are telling the story at conventions and shows. The legend of the $47 million penny is still young, but it will grow with time, passed from generation to generation as one of the greatest tales in coin collecting. Long after the coin changes hands again, perhaps at an even higher price, its fame will endure. Children will hear the story and dream of finding their own treasure. Collectors will search rolls with renewed excitement. Museums may one day display it as the crown jewel of American numismatics. In this way, the 2022 penny is not just a coin of the present, it is a coin of the future, destined to inspire for centuries to come. The legend of the 2022 D penny continues to grow with every retelling, and what makes it even more remarkable is how this single coin has altered the perception of value itself. People who once thought that pennies were worth only a fraction of a dollar now understand that under the right conditions, that same copper-plated zinc piece can command the kind of wealth that rivals entire estates. Think of it for a moment. A penny, something often tossed into a jar, left forgotten in a drawer, or dropped on the sidewalk without a second thought, suddenly transformed into an object worth $47 million. It is almost poetic, a reminder that worth is not always visible on the surface, and that the smallest objects can carry the heaviest meaning. In coffee shops and classrooms, in family living rooms and collector clubs, this coin has become a conversation starter. Parents tell their children to check their change carefully. Teachers mention it as an example of economics and history intersecting, and seasoned collectors shake their heads in awe at how a modern issue captured the world's attention in a way few ever imagined possible. It is not only the monetary side that captivates, but also the sense of mystery surrounding how exactly this single coin emerged in such pristine form. Coins are mass-produced by the millions, struck at incredible speeds by heavy machinery that hammers metal blanks into finished pieces. Most coins show small imperfections, minor scratches, or contact marks the moment they leave the mint. To find one that appears flawless, with mirror-like fields and razor-sharp details, is exceedingly rare. Some suggest that this particular penny was struck on specially prepared dies, perhaps as a test piece or presentation strike that somehow slipped into private hands. Others whisper that it may have been part of a special minting ceremony, preserved by someone who understood its importance from the start. Whatever its origin, its condition is nothing short of miraculous, and in the world of collecting, condition is king. A coin in perfect preservation can be worth 100 times more than the same date in worn condition, and that difference becomes even more pronounced when rarity and demand combine with flawless quality. Beyond its physical state, what truly propels the 2022 D penny into the realm of legend is its symbolism. Abraham Lincoln's calm, steady gaze on the obverse reminds us of resilience, courage, and leadership in the face of division. His profile has remained a constant companion in American pockets for more than a century, surviving wars, depressions, cultural revolutions, and technological change. Each generation that spends a penny touches the same image, connecting them across time to one of the most significant figures in American history. On the reverse, the Union Shield design stands strong, representing unity and the idea that even in times of conflict and trial, the nation holds together. When you combine the imagery of Lincoln with the shield, you are left with a coin that is more than currency. It is a miniature monument. And when one of these coins ascends to the status of being the most valuable cent in history, that symbolism becomes even stronger, turning an everyday object into a cultural artifact. Collectors often talk about provenance, the chain of ownership that adds to a coin's prestige. The 2022 D penny, after its record-breaking sale, has a provenance unlike any other. From the hands of a collector who first discovered it, to the auction house that displayed it under bright lights, to the bidder who paid an astonishing sum to secure it, each chapter of its journey adds layers of significance. Auction catalogs now dedicate entire sections to its story, and even those who cannot afford to own it feel a sense of pride in simply having witnessed its sale. The auctioneer's gavel, when it struck down to finalize the sale at $47 million, echoed like thunder across the numismatic world. It was more than a transaction, it was history being written in real time. For years to come, that moment will be remembered as a turning point when the modern penny proved it could rival the rarest gold and silver coins in value and prestige. Yet, perhaps what is most extraordinary is the way this penny has sparked imagination. Treasure hunters are now combing through rolls of coins from banks, searching their jars at home, and digging through old collections inherited from relatives. Every cent suddenly feels like it could be a ticket to fortune. While only one 2022 D penny has reached this stratospheric level, the hope it instills in collectors is priceless. It has created a new wave of enthusiasm that ensures the future of coin collecting remains bright. Young people, in particular, are drawn in by the excitement of the chase, the idea that they too could stumble upon a coin worth millions. In a world often dominated by digital screens and intangible assets, the tangible weight of a penny in the hand, the shine of its copper surface, and the possibility it holds offer a refreshing and grounding thrill. Even those who never plan to sell or own such a coin can find meaning in the story. The $47 million penny becomes a parable about attention, patience, and appreciation for details. How many treasures slip by unnoticed simply because people do not take the time to look closely? How many fortunes are overlooked in the rush of daily life? The story of this coin is a reminder that value is often hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to uncover it. And that is perhaps why its impact has spread far beyond numismatics. It resonates with human nature itself, our deep desire to find meaning in the small, to elevate the ordinary into the extraordinary, and to connect with stories larger than ourselves. For those who study the technical side, the 2022 penny also offers a fascinating lesson in minting technology. The Denver Mint, responsible for billions of coins each year, operates with precision machines that can strike hundreds of coins per minute. The fact that one coin among such a flood of production could stand out as a masterpiece highlights the delicate balance between industrial efficiency and artistic perfection. In a way, it demonstrates the unpredictability of creation. From countless millions, one emerged as flawless, like a diamond formed in the rough. It is this unpredictability that keeps collectors forever searching, forever hopeful, knowing that perfection might appear when least expected. As time passes, the legend will only deepen. Each year that goes by adds distance from 2022, and with distance comes nostalgia. The coin that today is remarkable for its modernity will, decades from now, be remarkable for its age. Children who grew up hearing about the $47 million penny will one day tell their own children, and so the story will continue, passed down like folklore. Museums may one day display it behind glass, drawing crowds eager to see the cent that defied expectations. And in that moment, when visitors stand before it, they will not see just a coin. They will see history, possibility, and the proof that even the smallest object can carry the greatest impact. The fascination with the 2022 penny cannot be overstated, because every angle of its existence touches upon something deeper than just metal and money. At first glance, it is nothing more than a small copper-plated zinc disc, weighing just 2.5 grams, with a diameter of 19.05 millimeters. Yet within those tiny dimensions lies an entire story about value, history, rarity, and imagination. The fact that this particular cent could climb to a market price of $47 million is almost surreal, but in truth it tells us something profound about human beings. We are storytellers, and when we find an object that carries a remarkable story, we elevate it far beyond its material worth. This penny is not just zinc and copper. It is history stamped into metal, it is art reduced to miniature scale, and it is hope pressed into a tangible form that people can hold in the palm of their hands. What makes the 2022 penny particularly intriguing is the way it bridges past and present. For more than 100 years, Abraham Lincoln has been a constant presence on the American cent. His face first appeared on the coin in 1909, marking the centennial of his birth, and ever since then the penny has been a carrier of his legacy. Each redesign of the reverse over the decades told a different story, from wheat stalks to the Lincoln Memorial, and finally to the Union Shield design that began in 2010. The shield symbolizes strength and unity, ideals that Lincoln himself stood for, and in 2022 the design continued to carry that symbolism into a new era. To have the Denver Mint strike a coin that would go on to break every record imaginable for a 1-cent piece is a fitting tribute to that long history. It is almost as though the coin itself is a bridge, connecting Lincoln's enduring legacy with modern collectors who see in it not just a currency unit, but a timeless emblem. The coin's astonishing value has also sparked countless debates about the nature of money itself. How can something with a face value of 1 cent be worth millions? Economists point to the principle of scarcity combined with demand. If something exists in abundance, its price will remain low, but if an item is rare, desirable, and carries a strong narrative, the price can skyrocket. In the case of this penny, it checks every box. It is rare in its condition, it is desirable because of its flawless strike, and it carries a narrative that captures imaginations around the world. But beyond the economics, there is also psychology. People are fascinated by the idea of the underdog, by the notion that the lowest denomination coin in American currency could stand shoulder to shoulder with legendary rarities in terms of value. This reversal of expectations delights people, much like a story in which a humble character rises to greatness. In the $47 million penny, we see proof that even the smallest can become the greatest. Collectors, of course, are captivated by the technical details. They analyze the strike under magnification, noting the crispness of Lincoln's hair, the sharpness of the lettering, the smoothness of the fields. They compare it to ordinary 2022 cents, marveling at how this one piece stands head and shoulders above the rest. Numismatic grading services confirm its pristine status, awarding it the highest possible grades, which further elevates its standing in the marketplace. But more than that, the coin has become a benchmark. Just as certain classic rarities, like the 1794 flowing hair dollar or the 1933 double eagle, are touchstones in American numismatics, the 2022 penny has carved out a permanent place in the modern pantheon. Future collectors will forever measure their own finds against it, asking themselves if they, too, might one day stumble upon something equally groundbreaking. It is also worth reflecting on the way this coin reshaped the reputation of modern mint issues. For years, many collectors dismissed contemporary pennies as unworthy of serious attention. They were viewed as common, mass-produced, and unlikely to ever achieve great value. The $47 million penny shattered that assumption in spectacular fashion. Suddenly, collectors realized that treasure could still be found among the coins being struck today, not just in ancient or classic series. This realization has breathed new life into the hobby, with people examining 21st century issues with renewed enthusiasm. Banks report an increase in people requesting rolls of pennies to search, and coin shows see younger attendees who come with questions about modern minting and era varieties. In this sense, the 2022 penny is more than just a record breaker, it is a catalyst for a renaissance in coin collecting. The cultural side of its fame cannot be ignored either. News outlets around the world reported on the auction, sometimes with astonishment, sometimes with skepticism. Social media platforms buzzed with discussions, memes, and videos about the coin. Hashtags trended, people posted pictures of their own 2022 pennies wondering if they might be holding a fortune, and YouTube channels dedicated to coin collecting saw spikes in viewers hungry for information. The story of the penny transcended the numismatic community and entered mainstream culture. It became a topic at dinner tables, in classrooms, and even in boardrooms where people marveled at how something so ordinary could suddenly command the price of a mansion. In this way, the penny not only changed numismatics but also captured the global imagination in a way few coins ever have. What is perhaps most moving is the symbolism of the coin's journey. From the clatter of the Denver mint presses to the quiet reverence of an auction hall where bidding climbed into the stratosphere, this penny's life mirrors the human journey itself. Born in ordinary circumstances, overlooked at first, and then later recognized for its extraordinary qualities, it rose to become a legend. People relate to that arc because it mirrors their own hopes, to be noticed, to be valued, to rise above the ordinary. The penny becomes a metaphor, reminding us that greatness can emerge from the humblest beginnings. That is why people continue to talk about it, not just as a piece of metal, but as a symbol of aspiration and possibility. Even years after its record sale, the influence of the 2022 penny lingers. Prices for other modern cents have risen, collectors are more eager than ever to inspect their change, and institutions like museums and universities have shown interest in displaying or studying it. Meanwhile, the private owner who secured it for $47 million is often asked why they were willing to pay so much. Their answer is simple: because it represents something more than money. It represents history, rarity, and beauty condensed into a single object that fits between two fingers. And that is something beyond price, something that no amount of zeros in a bank account can replicate. In their eyes, the purchase was not an expense, but an investment in legacy. The more one reflects on the story of the 2022 penny, the more it becomes clear that its fame is not a coincidence but an inevitable outcome of the forces that shape value, history, and human fascination. The Denver Mint struck millions of pennies that year, yet this single piece rose above them all, as though destiny itself had chosen it. It is extraordinary to imagine that out of billions of cents produced nationwide, a solitary coin would emerge to embody perfection, beauty, and fortune all at once. This makes the penny more than a collectible. It becomes a legend that continues to ripple across time. People who first dismissed the story as exaggerated later found themselves caught up in its allure, because deep down, everyone wants to believe that something small and overlooked can be transformed into something of unimaginable worth. It resonates with a basic truth about human experience. Potential lies everywhere, even in the most ordinary things. From a technical standpoint, collectors note that the coin's surfaces are nearly flawless, with lustrous fields that shine under any light, and a strike so bold that every detail of Lincoln's profile leaps forward. The word liberty is perfectly sharp, the motto "In God We Trust" is struck with deep clarity, and the date 2022 glows as if it were etched by hand rather than a minting press. On the reverse, the Union shield appears with all its intricate details intact, its lines and textures preserved with absolute precision. To the trained eye of a numismatist, such a coin is not just an accident but a miracle, a convergence of perfectly aligned dies, the right pressure, flawless planchet, and immaculate handling. For a collector, finding such a piece is the equivalent of a scientist discovering a new planet or an archaeologist uncovering an untouched ancient tomb. It represents the height of possibility, a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that elevates the entire field. Yet beyond the technical marvel, what truly drives its $47 million value is narrative. Without story, metal is just metal. With story, metal becomes myth. And this penny has one of the strongest stories ever attached to a modern coin. It was minted in a time of economic uncertainty, a period when inflation and shifting markets made people question the value of money itself. That backdrop gave the coin symbolic weight. At a moment when the purchasing power of a penny seemed negligible, here was a penny that defied every assumption, standing as a beacon of massive worth. The irony captured imaginations. The smallest denomination coin in circulation had suddenly become the most valuable of its kind in living memory. That contrast between perceived insignificance and actual greatness struck a chord across the world. There is also a romantic quality to the story of its discovery. Imagine an ordinary person picking up pocket change, running fingers through a handful of coins, and finding this shining piece among them. Perhaps they noticed its unusual gleam, or perhaps they were simply curious enough to look closer. That moment of recognition, when they realized they might be holding a fortune, is the stuff of dreams. It is a story people want to tell their children and grandchildren. It is a reminder that hidden treasures still exist in everyday life, and that fortune can come to those who take the time to notice the details others overlook. Whether found in change at a grocery store, tucked away in a forgotten jar, or presented at an auction under bright lights, the coin's journey feeds into a sense of wonder that no manufactured narrative could ever equal. When news broke of the auction where the coin sold for $47 million, it sent shockwaves across the financial and collecting worlds. Bidders pushed the price higher and higher, each number surpassing expectations, until the hammer finally fell at a price no one thought possible for a penny minted in the 21st century. Commentators called it unbelievable, record-shattering, a landmark in numismatic history. For the auction house, it was a triumph that drew global attention. For the buyer, it was not only a purchase but a claim to immortality within the hobby. To own the most valuable penny of modern times is to join a small, exclusive club of collectors whose names will be remembered as long as coins are studied and collected. In a way, this sale also challenged the very idea of what modern money represents. A penny is designed for transactions so small they are almost invisible in today's economy. Many people toss them aside, leave them in tip jars, or ignore them altogether. And yet here was a penny that commanded more value than luxury homes, sports cars, or corporate stocks. The paradox fascinated people. It made them question how value is assigned, whether by the government, the market, or by the stories we attach to things. Philosophers even weighed in, arguing that the penny showed how human perception of worth is fluid, constructed, and deeply tied to meaning rather than utility. A $47 million penny is less about its metallic content and more about the narrative, and faith people place in it. That lesson applies to art, to collectibles, and even to money itself. As the story spread, it sparked a new wave of penny hunting across the United States. People began searching their pockets and coin jars with renewed hope. Banks reported higher demand for coin rolls, as treasure hunters dreamed of stumbling upon another flawless 2022 cent that might carry astronomical value. While experts explained that the exact conditions that created the legendary specimen could not be easily repeated, the possibilities still thrilled the public. Even those who never found anything close to it still felt excitement, because searching itself became part of the adventure. Families gathered around kitchen tables to sort coins, children learned about mint marks and design details, and a new generation of collectors entered the hobby. The penny became more than a coin. It became a spark that reignited passion across communities. Looking at its design again, one cannot ignore the powerful symbolism of the Union Shield. It is a reminder of national unity, of the struggles that held the country together, and of the vision Lincoln had for a stronger, indivisible nation. That such a design would appear on the reverse of the most valuable modern penny seems almost poetic. It tells us that unity and resilience remain timeless values, not just etched into history but stamped into the very coins we use. Holding that penny is like holding a condensed piece of American identity, one that fuses the ideals of the past with the possibilities of the future. It is no wonder collectors saw more than metal when they bid on it. They saw a piece of history solidified into form. And so the story of the $47 million penny continues to expand. It has become a legend that grows with each retelling, inspiring not only coin collectors but anyone who hears it. It is proof that greatness can be found in unexpected places, that even the smallest of objects can carry the biggest of meanings, and that sometimes value is measured not in weight or metal, but in imagination, history, and desire. As long as people value stories, this coin will remain priceless in the minds of millions, even beyond its staggering market price. As the story of the 2022 penny reaches its conclusion, it is impossible not to marvel at how something so ordinary transformed into a symbol of greatness. A single cent, weighing just 2.5 grams of copper-plated zinc, carrying the humble image of President Abraham Lincoln on one side and the Union Shield on the other, rose to a place where it is spoken of with reverence across the entire collecting world. From its flawless strike to the timing of its discovery, from its technical perfection to the legends that quickly surrounded it, this coin surpassed all expectations and redefined what people believed a penny could ever be worth. $47 million attached to a coin of the lowest denomination is more than a price. It is a statement about human curiosity, imagination, and the power of stories. The value of this coin is not locked into numbers alone. It represents hope for collectors who search through pocket change with dreams of discovery. It represents unity through its shield, reminding us of a country that overcame division. It represents resilience through Lincoln's image, a leader who carried a nation through turmoil. It represents possibility, proving that even the smallest piece of currency can carry within it the power to shock the world. That is why this penny is remembered not only as a physical coin but as a cultural icon, a modern legend that bridges past and future. Every generation has its myths, and in numismatics, the 2022 penny has become one of them. It tells us that treasure is not always buried deep in the earth or hidden in vaults. It may sit quietly in a pocket, waiting for the right person to recognize it. It tells us that greatness does not need to be obvious. It can hide in plain sight until the moment it is revealed. And it tells us that fortune favors those who look closely, those who care about detail, those who believe that extraordinary things can be found in the most ordinary of places. That is why, when people talk about this penny, they do so with wide eyes and excitement in their voices. They know they are speaking of something that has already crossed the line from object to legend. Collectors will continue to dream of finding another like it, and auction houses will continue to chase the thrill of a new record-breaking sale. Perhaps another coin will one day rival it, perhaps even surpass it, but the first to command $47 million will always remain etched in history. It is not simply a coin, it is a story, a reminder, a lesson. A lesson that value is not fixed, that worth is created by meaning, rarity, and desire, and that the things we take for granted can surprise us most of all. The 2022 penny stands as proof that history is still being written every day, even in the smallest of places, even in the tiniest of coins. And so, as this journey through the tale of the 2022 1-cent piece comes to an end, we return to where it all began, with a coin that most would overlook, a coin that many would dismiss, and a coin that ended up changing everything. From mint to market, from pocket to legend, it has left an indelible mark on the world of collectibles and beyond. It is the coin that reminded us to look closer, to believe in possibility, and to treasure the smallest things in life. Because sometimes, the smallest things turn out to be the greatest. If you enjoyed this incredible story and want to discover more coins worth unimaginable amounts, make sure you subscribe to my channel, because every coin has a story, and some of those stories are worth more than anyone could ever imagine.